Our favorite guests are those who make us think and can talk sports and pop culture, but most importantly, who bring us stuff. And Academy Award winner John Ridley has done all that. Good to see you, sir. How are you?
It's really good to see you. Hello to the entire team.
Yes.
What's up, John?
It's been a while since you were here, so it's glad to have you back.
It's great to be out in the world again. I've not gotten over the feeling of being out and going out and actually being able to do things in person. I
Fantastic.
appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad that you are here.
Thank you.
And congratulations on the Blue Wall 3 for GCPD, the Blue Wall number 3, available today wherever you get your comic books. The Blue Wall comic book series is in the DC universe. And I can't wait to, delve a little bit deeper into why you're doing this and what fascinates you about all this. Yeah. But first and foremost is what's in the box?
What's in the box?
Okay, thank you. What's in the box? What do we got here?
That is, I've been on the show a few times, and you all, seriously, I don't know if people know how genuine you all are. You're guys and people's people. And I wanted to, you've got tons of swag.
We do.
From some of the biggest stars in sports, entertainment, pop culture, and all that. I said, what can I bring? So I had the opportunity a couple of years ago in the DC universe to start writing a character who's named Jace Fox. If you've seen the Batman movies, you know Morgan Freeman's character, Lucius Fox.
Right.
This is his son, who in the DC universe is now Batman, and Batman in New York. So you have a Batman who happens to be black, in New York City, out there saving the world. So that's all good, and it feels good, but when it's really something is when they start making toys out of
based on your creation.
Now that's something else. So if you ever came to my house, and anybody on set...
John Ridley here on the Rich Eisen Show. Yes.
Welcome to come to the house. If you call in advance and I don't happen to be there, then you're welcome to come.
Careful, people. Hear that on the Roku channel and this terrestrial radio affiliate.
Again, I want to limit that invite.
They might want to see your Academy Award. They might want to see everything that you've done.
Sure. But here's the thing, Rich.
Yes.
If you came to my house, you would not see an Oscar. You would not see film posters. You would not see any awards. I really and I sincerely believe whatever I did yesterday was yesterday. You got to look forward. You got to look to the future. What you would see, though, is you would see this. And I came in and I was kind of kidding on the square when I said that's sort of my Super Bowl trophy. That's sort of everything.
And again,
to me,
for the terrestrial radio audience that just joined us here, again, you brought us what? You brought us a character that you have created in the DC universe,
This
correct?
is a character that I would say co-created, because you certainly work with the artist, and this is based on an artist that I work with, Olivier Coupel, who's one of the best. And he is based on a character that existed in the DC universe, but not as he is. By the way, can I just say, as I speak to you and I see the best dad ever, while you're putting a toy together for me, I just feel like it's Christmas morning.
I love it. Okay, so here we go.
So that's Jace Fox.
Jace Fox.
Okay.
He's leaping down from a window, being heroic, a character I had the opportunity to work with and create. And there he is. I think you might want to flip the base.
Flip the base?
Well, lift him out.
Okay.
Lift Jace out.
Have the base behind.
Now, be very careful, Rich. There are only about 500 of those in existence.
Okay.
No kidding.
Now, what am I? So it's like this?
Like that, and there we go. Jace Fox,
Well done.
DC Universe, leaping down on the Rich Eisen Show.
This is great,
This
man.
may be...
So awesome.
I may be retiring.
Right here. This is going to be, I'm just going to leave it right here for the rest of this conversation.
That's really
What
good.
does it mean that you've created? I mean, honestly, let's start into it. What got you into comics to begin with, graphic novels and things of that nature?
My father was a doctor. My parents are both still with us. God bless them. My father was a doctor, U.S. military, Air Force, guy growing up, civil rights era, accomplished. Mother's a teacher. I didn't like to read. My grades, Rich, no kidding, I mean, were garbage. And one day, there's this thing lying there. It's a comic book. I pick it up, start going, oh my God. People flying around, got powers, doing things. I said, I want to read this. And my parents were like, we'll buy you every comic book you want. You got to read it. And if you find a word that you don't understand, don't ask us. You go look that word up.
Yeah.
From there on, that was, I don't want to be flippant, but that was my thing. That was,
That's what allowed your coin to drop?
my coin to drop.
Pretty much.
My head to blow up. And the late, great John Singleton, director of Boys in the Hood, many great films.
Yes.
I had the opportunity to know him. And we had a similar experience. One of the things about comic books, it's the sequential art. So it's panel to panel to panel to panel. And when you become a director, that's basically what you're doing. It's panel to panel to panel to panel. So not only was it literally helped my education, it also prepared me for another career that I didn't even know that I was going to have. To how to communicate, how to create, how to explain things to folks, and how to put images together in a way that an audience will go, okay, I get it, I get it, I get it, I get it. So that was really
So that's when you first got into it. Again, John Ridley here on the Rich Eisen Show. We'll talk about your Packers in a second. You know, you got an Oscar for Best Writing Adapted Screenplay, 12 Years a Slave, and, you know, Emmy nominations for that great American crime show you came on a few years ago to promote. So why get back into that world? Why get into this world at your stage of your career to start writing and creating characters like this and stories like the ones that you're creating right now?
For two reasons. One, and I don't want to bag on the things that I do in Hollywood, but there's a lot of things between what you want to accomplish. You know, it's always it's about the money. It's about who do you attract. It's about is this an idea? Does it seem viable? All those kinds of things.
Yes.
There's a lot of work to get to the point where it's just a yes. And I appreciate that. I understand that that's
Pitch
part of the
meetings?
game.
Is that where you're going? There's not much.
John, thank you for coming in. We're going to talk, and we're going to get back to you on that. It's always great to see you.
You should
terrific.
You should write a movie or a show called "We'll Get Back to You." We'll get back to you on that.
Oh man, I could go on. And can I take one little tributary really quickly, just because you brought up pitch meeting?
Sure, yeah.
And I got to give a shout out. There's a guy on the internet, Ryan George. This was not planned.
Okay, great.
But there's one reason to have the internet in existence at all. He does a thing called Hollywood Pitch Meeting.
Okay.
And he'll take a film that just came out, like, whatever, pick something, Black Adam or whatever, or Avatar is coming out.
Yeah.
And he will basically go through what that pitch meeting must have been like to get it on the air. And he's got this catchphrase, super easy, barely an inconvenience. So when you get to that big moment in a film where it's supposed to be, this is the buildup and it's going to be so hard for the hero. And he goes, no, actually it'd be super easy, barely an inconvenience. And you go through why that never should, whatever the hero did.
I love it.
Even in Hollywood, that should not have happened. So I'm glad I got to actually give this dude a shout out, because he's the funniest, most charming dude on the internet, and takes the piss out of what we do in Hollywood on a daily basis. But I will say this, back to your question about why do this.
Yes.
When you go to the cons, when you go out in public and you see the fans of all stripes.
When you say cons, you mean Comic
Cons. When you're out there,
Right.
in the fan gatherings and those kinds of things. All of them are terrific fans, and their passion, whether they love it or they hate it, it energizes you. But I will say this, to be able to go out to kids of color. When I was growing up, I don't hate to say it, it's the truth. It's not like you saw a lot of people of varying backgrounds doing the heroic things, having the opportunity to inject that wish fulfillment to everybody, irrespective of what your background is, where you come from, and what you're about. So to be able to bring characters of color, and I have to do something really quick because I work for several corporate masters.
Go for it.
We're finishing up our Black Panther run, which you want to talk about your head exploding. To be able to write a series like Black Panther with T'Challa about Black excellence, and spend the last year and a half. So this is the second collection of our 15-issue arc that's coming out, and that's wrapping up this year. You ask a very good question. Why, people would look at it, you get to do movies and you get to, do TV and hang out with real stars. Why would you do comic books? Why would you not? These are the stories that we tell. This is our mythology. This is what people want to see. And to even occupy that much real estate in this space, and then have people say, you know what, we need to create toys. We need to have objects. It doesn't do anything. There are no electronics. You look at it, and I look at it from a distance, and I go, I made it. You know what I mean?
You certainly have.
I've made it, and to be, it's great to be here and to share and I know Kirk Cousins was on, and he wanted to have comic books. And I just want to say to Kirk, keep batting, man. Keep going out there and doing it, and you'll get
careful.
You'll get a plastic toy. One
Careful,
day.
he's coming to Lambeau Field in week 17. John.
Kirk Cousins. We'll talk, and I'll talk as a fan about the Packers, and then I'll talk as a real person.
Go ahead.
As a fan, I'm looking forward to that Super Bowl celebration. It's going to be amazing.
The Packers Super Bowl celebration. This year's Packers Super Bowl celebration.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you what the difference is.
Yes, sir.
You have years with, we had the relax, right? You had run the table.
Yes.
They did that. They get into the playoffs with a red-hot team.
Yes.
Firing on all cylinders, right? And then San Francisco comes in and says, you know what? We're just going to bring our special teams. We're not going to bring offense. We're not going to bring defense. We're just going to block some kicks, return some punts,
Yes.
score 12 points, and then move on. Or you have a year like the Seattle, where Seattle decides we're not even going to play by the rules of football. we're not going to do anything that anybody has seen before, and we're going to walk away with it. So I think sometimes if you're not tested,
Yes.
do you know what I mean?
I do. So you say all of that experience will come into bear. Now, what about the human being outside of the fandom?
Oh, we'll be done next week. Tua's got the fastest release in the game.
Yeah, I know, right?
They got guys. You can't even. You're still looking at this end of the field, and they're doing their end zone dances.
That's my concern. Is that even if you defense them, even if you come close to, defensing them well enough, and they could still put up 28. And I don't know the last time the Packers put up 28. I mean, it was against the Eagles a few weeks ago, but
here's my thing. If you go into Buffalo on a cold, snowy
that was amazing, right?
day, and people are literally, they're throwing snowballs,
right?
And I'm like, where's security?
Yes.
And it comes down to, whatever, a kick or a last-second amazing throw from one of the best quarterbacks in the game right now.
Yes.
Certainly, this is the year that we've seen anything can happen. No team is out of it. It's ridiculous, all the narratives this year. Every one of them, the good ones and some of the ones that are painful in the NFL.
Yes.
This has been a year. I mean, you know this game better than I do. I've never seen anything.
It's been amazing, and this past weekend was truly remarkable. John Ridley here on the Rich Eisen Show. So let's combine the two conversations we just had. If you could write a comic book character based on an NFL quarterback, who would it be? You could start
an existing
a current NFL quarterback right now in 2022. You could write a comic book based on their abilities, character, traits. Who would it be?
Patrick Mahomes, hands down. No disrespect to the Packers. I love the Packers.
Yes.
But he, to me, everything about that young man, and everything, his personal narrative, what he does, that no-look pass he did last week or a couple weekends ago, where he does. He to me is the Magic Johnson of football, and there are a lot of great technicians there. Tom Brady, to me, and this is not a dig at Tom Brady, obviously one of the greats, but he's a great pocket passer.
Yes.
He's great and he wins, but it's not necessarily maybe the most exciting highlight tape. You have guys like Lamar Jackson, whose highlight tapes are amazing. And this guy is Lamar is probably like the total quarterback, running, passing, and all that. I just think Patrick, he's magical. He's delightful. I will say with a little bias, and I just point to Sylvia, my publicist, is here. I only know people because my wife knows everybody.
Welcome to the club.
You guys have that in common.
Welcome to the club,
So
sir.
last year when they played the game, when it was Chiefs-Packers, and Aaron wasn't able to play because he had his the COVID issue.
Yes.
I find myself sitting in the coach's house, Kansas City.
And Andy Reid?
Andy Reid's house.
Yeah.
With Mrs. Reid, who is one of the most lovely human beings you will ever meet, before the game, because of my wife.
Uh-huh.
And Mrs. Reid very nicely is scolding me. Now, John, you're not going to be cheering for the Packers today. No, Mrs. Reid, I will not be cheering for the Packers today. But I'm sitting there like, what? So just knowing the organization, knowing people around it, I've never met Patrick Mahomes, but he seems like a wonderful guy.
Oh, he is.
And just how he plays and how he represents, and to me, representation is a really big
just
thing.
like, how does you look at that and not just smile, right?
Well, the other thing, and I will say this, he looks like my kids. He looks like my two incredibly handsome young men. I would love, I mean, look, I would, tons of people out there I'd love for my kids to meet. But there's something about that guy that you just go, if I were going to write a story, if I were going to take a character, if it was a dude I was going to spend a day with right now, I mean, you know, I very seriously, I loved listening to Kirk Cousins and his humility, talking about the game, talking about the tough times don't last, but the tough people do. You love hearing things like that.
Well, your timing may be off because I think our one chit to meet Patrick Mahomes for our guest was used by Henry Winkler the last couple weeks. You know, that we made that happen. But I mean, Patrick might give us one more shot at it.
Look, well, Henry Winkler is the other nicest guy.
I know he is.
You know, so you got the two nicest guys creating, you know,
superpower,
Wonder Twin powers Twins,
Xander
activated right there.
Do
you know
Wonder
what I mean?
Twins, yes.
Form of happiness.
The nicest person ever.
So but you know what? I have a feeling sometimes
that's funny.
You listen to me. You know, sitting in Andy Reid's house before a game.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm happy being the dude who's like, you know, one step removed from, you know, the actual good stuff that's happening in the world.
I love it. I love it. So you were at that Packer Chiefs game, so I imagine you had better seats than Jordan Love's family on that day. Because I don't know if you saw, they were in the last row of the stadium.
That's sad because we were not. We certainly were not in the first row, but we weren't in the last row.
No, you're John Ridley, or
no, I'm Mr. Gail Ridley.
That's right. Gail Ridley's +1. Gail Ridley's +1. Yeah, you were on that day. Before I let you go, I know you handed TJ a special gift, right?
It's here for you.
Okay, right there, the Black Panther.
I got it.
But TJ, in honor of you being here, what T-shirt are you wearing?
I just broke out a Martin. Well, let me move the hair out.
You want to explain to people why TJ would break out a Martin T-shirt?
That right there that was my break into Hollywood. That was the first show that I ever worked on. I have to give a shout out. The showrunner on that show, one of the greatest guys, and I will say very sadly, he passed this year, John Bowman. People talk about being progressive in Hollywood. I will say, there's a lot of lip service to being progressive in Hollywood. It annoys me sometimes. John Bowman, he walked the walk. And he gave me not just an opportunity, he gave me a lot of opportunities. He was a great, great man. And not only did he give me an opportunity to work, he introduced me to my wife, which is the reason I get to say I got to sit in Andy Reid's house.
So you met your wife on Martin.
I met my wife on the Martin show. And let me tell you something. I was the geek. I was the guy, you know, standing in the corner. My wife, who you met, you may not remember, one of the most handsome, sweetest individuals in the world. I'm on the show. She decides she wants to like me. I mean, go figure. Go figure. But yeah, wearing that shirt, that's my entire life. The interesting thing between your shirt there and that there, that's the complete continuum
from Martin to this very moment.
From Martin to that moment. This is like a mini doc on John.
Look at us.
Maybe slice this up.
It's like a 3 for 3. You know, like we don't have a 30 minutes, but you got a good Martin story. What do you got for me? Well, I mean, because again, I mean, a lot of what you've done is very serious. I mean, you have some very serious credits and about some very serious subjects.
Yes.
So you were a comedy writer at the very beginning?
Yes.
You were writing...
I was a comedy writer. I was actually a stand-up comedian for a little bit.
Damn, John.
Here's my one thing that's going to bring it all together.
Let's bring it all together.
On the Martin show, one of the first scripts I wrote, I got to write a joke. There was an athlete. Do you remember a guy, Randall Cunningham?
Oh,
do you remember him? He guested on the show.
Okay.
And it was a show it was an episode that I was writing, and in the secret of Hollywood, and especially in comedies, there are a lot of writers in the room, but your name goes on it. But I got to write a joke for Randall Cunningham.
Do you remember what it was?
Something about he was coming in, he was entering a party that Martin was having, and there was something about him moving. He was like, oh, Randall Cunningham, he moves great, but he like couldn't dance, or he was bumping into furniture when he was dancing or something. So the guy was at that time, you know, one of the great mobile quarterbacks, probably began that era of truly great
Jalen
mobile
Hurts
quarterbacks.
is just only carrying the mantle that he first started.
Yes. So to write a joke for and people turn into you, go, oh, you got to write a joke for Randall Cunningham. At that time, I think that predated. So my introduction to really football was, you know, the Brett Favre era. So that was the late 90s. I was writing on the Martin show in the early 90s. So at that time, I didn't really know football. So they turned to me, you got to write a joke for Randall Cunningham. I'm going to get on that. They didn't have Google back then. So I'm like, Randall Cunningham, Randall, he would be, anybody hear this? Like I said, I was a geek. So fortunately, you know, my wife.
She filled in for. God bless her.
Do you know who Randall Cunningham is? Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm peeling the.
What was the name of the episode? Can you look that up? What do you
It
think?
was, I just remember there
got
was a
it?
party and Randall was
Snoop
talking.
was in it.
Randall was talking to Jerome.
Yes.
Because Rome came up and he asked Randall a question, which I can't remember, but I do remember that.
Snoop was in the
Snoop
episode
was in
as
that.
well.
Yeah, it was a party at Pam's house. I remember that.
That's a hell of a party. Oh, well, don't mess with him. Don't mess with him.
So, yeah,
Seriously.
I know Martin.
You know a lot more than that. I mean,
The episode was called No Love Lost from 1994.
there you go.
1994. Is that the episode? 1994. I was in the business in 94. Good
No
Lord.
Love Lost. It aired May 1st, 1994.
There you go. So you must have written
Season
it like maybe
2.
late 93. Season 2
was
of Martin.
Yeah, that was the season I
Season
was
2,
on.
yeah.
Most definitely. Season 2, 94. That's when things were kicking off.
said
That young
Jerome in the
man
house.
thinking that there was something waiting for him. in
Yeah, so the
Hollywood.
one line here, description at IMDb, Martin and Gina are so busy arguing that they miss Pam's engagement party for them.
And Wildness Ensues
Why-
by
basically-
John Ridley.
And then when you're in television too, it's sort of that's your pitch. Like, oh, you got to do a party thing and make some wildness ensue. Okay, I guess I'll go write
Snoop
that.
Dogg was on it.
Yeah.
And John Grease from that we just saw in White Lotus.
How about that?
Was in the
Oh,
episode.
yeah, because he's
Fantastic.
Sean. So,
Well, congratulations
Thank
on
you,
the
sir.
latest iteration of your comic book series, GCPD, The Blue Wall #3, available today wherever you get your comic books. John Ridley, it's been way too long. Let's do
Thank you,
this
sir.
more often. Thank
Would
you for
love to.
bringing gifts. This is now going to have a very special place in our studio.
One quick question. I know I got
Yes.
to go.
Yeah, go
but
ahead.
should the Packers win the Super Bowl, am I allowed to come back?
You're allowed to come back. You're allowed to come back whenever, but in that particular instance, especially so.
I cannot wait to see you all.
Especially, I love that. The
February.
fan says we're gonna. It's this Super Bowl party is gonna be amazing, and
said
then
it.
the realist isn't like we're done in about 6
I
days.
love that. You got to act. The fan has to believe your team always is going to
Oh,
win.
yeah.
Or else, why are we wasting time
What's the
watching these
point?
games? People get
right.
mad about me cheering for the Cowboys, but it's like, you got to love your team. You got to,
Got it.
we're fanatical.
Fan is exactly
You know?
the root of
Come on,
fanatic.
have
That is
fun with
correct.
it.
That is correct. John Ridley, thanks for coming in here.
My
sir.
pleasure. Thank you, and thanks to everybody.
You
Thank
bet. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.